Hey there, welcome back. So I have finally started my Dresden Files reread. I have a couple tabs, many thoughts. This is my all-time favorite series. If you haven't heard me gush about it before, noir, crime, urban fantasy, detective. He's a wizard and just trying to make rent, basically, and just this is his job. I love this character. I love this world. When I first read this book, I did so by audiobook, by the way. The most fantastic audiobook performance in this series. A plus. I can't read this book without hearing, is it James Master, something like that, his voice in my head. He also does Spike for Buffy. If you haven't read this series or experienced the audio book of it, I highly, highly recommend it. The first audiobook is not the best in quality. There's a lot of mouth sounds that's a little bit annoying. It really should be re-recorded, but it improves so much going forward. Speaking of improving going forward, I love this series with all my heart and soul. I love this character. However, when I first read it, I gave it 5 stars. I am not changing that rating because it is the Dresden Files, and it will have to do something really bad for me not to give it 5 stars. Harry is alone in this book. He doesn't have the same level of support with his friends that he's made throughout his journeys in the series. You're starting off base level Harry, he's supposed to be finding lost objects and missing persons and helping out here and there with anything magical that comes up in the series. We're level 1. We're not at the level of Battlegrounds or Deadbeat or anything like that in terms of characters all banding together and helping out. I still love this, but I recognize now why people say the older books are not to the same level as the later books, which I've said before, but it's different reading it again. I am going to go into full-on spoiler reviews shortly, break down plot by plot points, what I love and what I hated about this book. For spoiler-free, this is our wizard Harry. He is hilarious. He is snarky. He just wants to go about his day, but he gets dragged into a case that have very dark, very personal consequences, and he gets himself into trouble, which is a theme that carries on through. Side points that are not good in this series and criticisms that people have are going to be the over-sexualization of female characters, technically all characters, but just female in this one. We have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tabs that I have marked red in terms of over-sexualization. I did not like this. I wish it wasn't included in the story. It's a thick book, though, and it only happens like 6 times. 3 of them are very close together. So if that's not something you want or like to read, I understand. Just for anyone who wants to get into this series and is wondering when it becomes amazing, book 6 is the answer. If you read Deadbeat and you don't like it by then, you can push it aside. But if you make it past Deadbeat, you're hooked for the long haul. I personally gave almost everything from books 1 through 6 5 stars. There were 2 instances where I did not. You can take a look at my ranking video, spoiler free. Now let's get into the plots. All right, so starting off, we get a fantastic character introduction that really just gives us a look into Harry's personality and wit as he's talking to a delivery person, and Harry just wants his package. The delivery person wants to know why the hell he's labeled as a wizard and the sign on his door. And he's like, no, I'm a wizard. I don't do parties. I'm a legit wizard. I do magic. But he doesn't believe him. Harry gives a wisecrack, and we move on about our day. We learn that Harry is suffering financially, hasn't made rent for last month, and current month's probably going to be late. We also get a phone call from a woman saying that her husband's missing and she needs Harry's help to find him. So in the meantime, Harry also gets a call from Detective Karen Murphy saying that they have 2 dead bodies and she needs him to come take a look at it. So that's where most of his money comes from, is the Chicago PD. He's on the books as a consultant, probably labeled as a psychic or something, but he goes when the supernatural elements take a turn and police get involved. So the Special Investigations Unit is a division of the Chicago PD headed by Karen Murphy that deal with these unexplainable occurrences. They find a way to put it in the books in a logical manner as best they can to explain, like if a troll went on a rampage or a vampire got loose and did something, that kind of thing. So Harry goes down to this new apartment complex and finds 2 dead bodies, very, very brutally murdered. And we learn that it's Tommy Tom and a woman who worked in the Velvet Room, which is an organization run by Bianca, a Red Court vampire. So Harry agrees to figure out what could have killed them, because it turns out like their hearts and chests just have exploded outward, clearly by magic, and he's not sure what kind of power that would take to do it. Now, having taken a look into that crime scene, he has to run back to his apartment to make it in time for his appointment with who called herself Monica. So, small, tiny little detail that we got on reread is Harry being out of breath during his run. As you read through the series, he takes up running, so I just like the fact that he's out of breath now. Like, he wouldn't be doing that later on. But he turns around seeing 2 men have actually been chasing him that he didn't know he was running from. And it turns out a car stops in front of him. It's gentleman Johnny Marcone. This is the leader of the Chicago Mafia. And he just wants a word with Harry. So Harry kind of has no choice, gets in and lets Mr. Marcone bring him back to his apartment. And they have a nice little business meeting where Mr. Marcone, Johnny, wants to pay for Harry to do nothing for the next couple weeks. Just take a vacation. I'm going to pay for you to not get involved in this case. Because Tommy Tom, one of the victims from the crime scene we just left, actually worked for Mr. Marcone, and he wants to take care of this himself. I love Johnny. I love John Marcone so much. We get pretty much confirmed that he's into the supernatural community. He's aware of what's going on, as people have referred to Dresden by him or have talked to him about him and said, like, he's the real deal. He's not just a show, he's a wizard. So I think we're led to believe that he's already aware of the magical community. There's a brief mention of Harry's godmother, who is a fairy godmother, by the way. More on her later. We love her. And then a soul gaze is initiated. So a soul gaze being when each person sees the core of the other person's being and gets a feel for them and their soul. And we learn that Johnny is completely cold and ruthless, like a tiger's soul. He would kill somebody and it would mean nothing more than a business transaction, like an ice cold steel refrigerator. Nothing's getting past him. And Harry is terrified. However, if one thing we're going to learn about Harry throughout this series is that when he's afraid and when someone threatens him, because Johnny says, "Think about what I've said, Mr. Dresden. I do not think our respective lines of work need to overlap often. I would as soon not make an enemy of you over this matter." And then Harry says to him, "I clenched my jaw over my fear and spat words out at him quick and hard. You don't want to make an enemy of me, Marcone. That wouldn't be smart. That wouldn't be smart at all." So when Harry is frightened, when Harry is threatened, he will push back. Stubborn does not begin to describe this character. Getting back to his apartment, we meet Monica, and she explains that her husband has been involved in some kind of sorcery. He's been learning, getting books and tarot cards, and she is fearful that he's gotten himself involved in something very dangerous. So she pays Harry's fees up front, as well as giving him some of her husband's material, including a little dried up scorpion that can be worn as a necklace. And Harry, happy that he can make rent, starts the investigation, as well as the investigation that Detective Murphy got him involved with. We also go to McAnally's, which is a pub specially tailored for the magical community. And we learn about this three-eyed drug that is supposedly opening like the third eye and keep making people see things they shouldn't. We also meet Susan, who is a complete delight. She is a reporter for the Arcane and is interested in pursuing a relationship with Harry, somewhat because she's interested and attracted to him, somewhat because she writes on the supernatural, and she knows that he is involved in this kind of world and she can get a good story out of him. I still love Susan. We love Susan. Until a point when we don't love Susan. But we're not getting into any of that. Harry goes to the lake house that Monica told him about to look for if her husband can be there. We play a little bit of Sherlock detective as some clues are picked up, but we realize that Harry needs some more information, so he's going to call on a small fairy to help him out. This fairy being Toot Toot. We love Toot Toot. I love him so much. Okay, starting off in the series, I thought the fairies, the wee little folk, were a little bit annoying. Oh, they grow on you. I love them. If anything were to happen to these little fairies, I don't know what I would do. So he has to catch him. So ring of salt, some honey and sugar, or no, honey and bread, some sweet. Fairy brings in, traps him in the cage, and he's being all stern and dramatic. Oh, let me out, or I'll turn your teeth to, I don't know what, they'll all fall out. I got all this power. He's puffing his chest up and being right brave and stern and powerful because he's a fairy. He's a little tiny thing. Harry catches them apparently in the past all the time, but they don't have good memories. When you live for eternity, like what's a couple, or if you live for hundreds and hundreds of years, what's a couple weeks? So Harry agrees to let him out if he tells him what he knows about what happened at the lake house here. And Toot Toot explains that, yeah, okay, I'll see if anyone has heard anything. So he lets him out, and Toot Toot goes and looks for some information, see if any other fairies have been in the area when this happened. Comes back and tells Harry, okay, we seen someone, the pizza truck was there. Obviously, he doesn't know the difference between Domino's and Pizza Delight, so he's just like, okay, so a pizza was delivered. We then learn that the fairies love pizza, and Harry's going to use this to his advantage a lot in the future. Side note, there's a throwaway line that Santa is also a fairy and will require a much bigger, more powerful circle to capture someone like that, and Harry, of course, would never, ever try to catch Santa or any equivalent fairy or being in a circle like that. Yep, nope, would never, that's a bad idea. Harry would never try to do that. Next we meet Morgan, and my feelings for Morgan has changed a lot throughout the series, but for the time being, he is Harry's parole officer and one day will be his executioner if he has anything to say about it. We learn that Harry has broken one of the laws of magic and killed somebody using magic, however was in self-defense and was allowed to, be pardoned with the Doom of Damocles over him, which basically just means that if he ever breaks any of the other laws of magic, he will be executed. And Morgan's called dibs on being the one to do it. So he threatens Harry, says there was dark magic afoot. You've done dark magic in the past. I know it was you. I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to execute you. And we are, of course, experience more of Harry's personality, which is fantastic. He is hilarious. He is threatening. He is wonderful. He gets himself into some trouble, but we're able to get away from it. What I love about this is you can see and feel Harry's fear of the council as a whole, but for individuals, like, he's willing to protect and defend himself, but like if brought up to the council or said the council's on its way, if he got no way to fight with words and his rights as a wizard, he knows he's screwed. He knows there's people on the council who want him dead, and he has no way of defending himself against that. So the council's already being set up as this looming figure, pain in the side, and it's just so well done. We're now in a catch-22 though, because in order to prove that he was not involved in the dark magic that killed these two people at the hotel, Harry is going to have to research the magic that was used to do it in hope to find the true culprit, but even this research alone might be enough to get him killed. So Harry goes to his lab and he's like, well, I'm going to have to talk to Bianca. She was the vampire who hired the woman who was killed at the apartment, and he wants an escape potion to be able to get away from it. So he goes back to his house. We meet Mister, who is a cat. My cat has left me, and I can't even show it to you, but he's being quiet, so we're going to not drag him out. I wish I named my cat Mister, but I wanted to, but he was brought back from the Humane Society and came with a name, and I felt it was mean to change his name. You don't care about that. You don't care about that at all. All right, so Mister's his cat. He's wonderful. He's a big, giant tabby, really fat, lots of muscle, no tail. Possibly one of his parents was part lynx or wildcat, and he runs the apartment. As someone who owns a cat, I can say that's an accurate statement. So Harry goes down to his sub-basement in his lab to work on this escape potion via help from Bob. Bob is a spirit of air trapped in a human skull who has lots and lots and lots of knowledge. As Harry can't look things up online, technology normally malfunctions around him. It's a very great aspect to the world that I just love how technology interacts and malfunctions when wizards are around and how easily they could hack something. Bob is a character who irritates me an awful lot. He's a complete pervert, and everything is over-sexualized with him. There is an in-world explanation for this. Basically, Bob takes on the personality of his master, and Harry first met Bob and took hold of him and possession of him as a teenager when hormones were high, hence why he acts like this. It's a thing. It's a thing in the series. I just accept certain aspects of the series. So Bob agrees to help him create the escape potion if Harry agrees to also make a love potion. Not for any real reason other than to establish that you always make potions in double doses because there's just a lot of simmering and waiting involved, so you can always make two at the same time. And he just vicariously wants to make a love potion because he thinks it's going to be fun. So they do that. All right, afterwards, Harry gets a call from Murphy the next day, catches her up that he's got nothing for her, and then he promises that he's not going to go talk to Bianca because he's not really supposed to be actually investigating the case, just seeing the magic side of things. So after promising not to go talk to Bianca, he goes to talk to Bianca. And she attacks him when he mentions the murder of the woman who worked for her. Her name is Jennifer, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that. So she freaks out, drops the glamour that she has, and becomes like a bat demon-y looking thing. And he has to hold her off with like the power of sunshine and his amulet, which is a pentagram that belonged to his mother. We absolutely love it. This is Harry's first interaction with vampires, and just throughout the series, how big vampires play in the series. It's really great to see how scared he is in this one vampire attack compared to what happens very shortly in the series. Yeah, one vampire scared him. Oh, back in the day when he was a sweet summer child and was frightened by a single vampire and a single mobster. I think Harry misses these sweet innocent days of his. All right, so after convincing Bianca to have a civil conversation, she reveals that Jennifer had a friend named Linda, and they used to work together, but Linda since left the organization of the Velvet Room and is off on her own. So Harry goes to speak to Linda. That is when, how many red flags happen? I think we get 3 red flags in that section. That's wonderful character work right there. Jim Butcher needs to talk to a human woman one of these days, eventually, hopefully. Later in the series, he must have started talking to some because they get better. Anywho, she's just waiting to pick some people up from the airport. They have a chat, and he slips her his card and says, if you have any information, please just call me. I want to help. One little side note that is kind of important that I forgot to mention. Bianca, before telling him about Linda, or at least giving phone number and location, or a phone number, she kind of lost control a little bit and fed on another character who presumably she ends up killing. That's going to come into things in later books. It's a very small moment, but yeah. All right, so Harry has talked to Linda, and then he's gone off to investigate more. Starting with following up on Toot Toot and his pizza lead. So he calls a pizza place and sees if anyone had delivered pizza out to the lake house. There he gets hold of someone and finds out that, yeah, someone delivered pizza that day. He's like, dude, don't want to talk about it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to look. I didn't see anything. I'm not going to tell anybody anything. And Harry's kind of plays the cards like, what the hell do you mean? What you say? And he admits that there were a group of people there involved in an orgy, and he made a run for it. Harry then goes back to his apartment. However, he is attacked by some guy with a baseball bat. He assumes Johnny Marcone's one of his guys, telling him to stay out of it. So now he's got a concussion. So he's being threatened with murder by the council. He's getting threatened by Murphy if he doesn't help her, give her the information she needs about the magic that was used for the spell. But if he looks up the spell, then the council's going to kill him. But if he doesn't look up the spell, then the council's going to kill him anyway because they're going to blame him. And now he's got a concussion. He's been attacked by a vampire. It's just been a rough couple of days for him. So he's gone to the police station to see if he can fill Murphy in. And there he meets somebody who was on the three-eyed drug that we mentioned earlier. And he says something that really gets to him. And I am so impressed that this was mentioned in book 1. Wizard, I see you. I see you, wizard. I see the things that follow, those who walk behind, and he who walks behind. They come for you. And then Harry starts talking about how he's been murked, and that he who walks behind is someone that he's been involved in the past. It's a short. I didn't even know it was mentioned in the first book. I didn't think this came up until later on. I completely missed this my first read. So, yep, we're going to see when that comes more into play. At this point, Harry's just focusing on the fact that the three-eye drug is real, and it does open up your third eye, which allows you to see like the spirit world, or see things, not the spirit world, but see things as they truly are. And whatever you see is burned into your brain. Like, you cannot forget it. If you see something terrible or horrible, that grief and fear that you feel that first time will never go away. It will always be there, and time just doesn't lessen it. So it's a really bad thing, and it will drive people crazy in weeks if you don't control it. So wizards learn to control it very quickly. The common person, if they're not able to close it, they're going to go insane. Harry tells Murphy that he's done the calculations for what it would take for someone's heart and chest to explode. It would definitely probably involve multiple killers, because Harry thinks if he tried, he might possibly be able to do it to one person without killing himself. There's no way he would be able to do it to 2 people. And he's already a pretty strong wizard for his age. Definitely the strongest one that he knows for in the area, with the exception, of course, Morgan, who's lurking around. And then we got a line that just, I hate Murphy sometimes. All right then, how many people do you know of who could manage the killing spell? Christ, Murphy, I say. You can't ask me to just hand you a list of names of people to drag downtown for questioning. She leaned down closer to me, blue eyes fierce. Wrong, Harry. I can ask you. I can tell you to give them to me. And if you don't, I can haul you in for obstruction and complicity so quickly that it will make your head spin. My head's already spinning, I told her. So, like, I don't like Murphy. She's mean to Harry. She threatens him multiple times in this book that either to arrest him or make his life more difficult if he doesn't help this spell. Like, he's already told her, like, this is a dangerous thing, and he can't give her more information. And to him, it's, I can't give you more information because the council will kill me if I talk to you about them, or kill you if I tell you about them, as they're very secret. She doesn't understand, like, if she believes that wizards' powers and magic is real. I'm not even 100% sure she's completely convinced in this first book. She claims to be, but I'm not really sure. I feel she should trust him when he says he can't do something magic related or can't tell her something. There should be faith on her side that he's doing this for a reason. Granted, a lot of times throughout the series, his reasoning is, I don't want to put my friends in danger, and a big part of the series is him realizing he has to have faith in his friends, and they can make the decision for themselves on whether or not they want to put themselves in danger. A couple times in this book, though, it's, if I do what you're asking me to do, I'm putting my life at danger. The council will kill me for researching this information. And he can't really come out and say that to her without revealing what the council is. And she's just like, well, I'll have you arrested. And it's like, same thing. Like, I can't just tell you everyone who's involved with magical practices to have you drag them in. I'm not just going to rat out the entire community that I'm a part of and who trust me with their secrets. And she's like, well, I'll have you arrested. I don't like Murphy. All right, so then Harry passes out because, concussion. And eventually he comes to, refuses to go to the hospital, which makes sense. Hospitals, lots of technical equipment, and wizards do not get along. So Murphy gives him a ride home. There's a cute little moment. They're friends. Maybe one day there'll be more. I don't want them anymore. And he gets home, gets tucked into bed. She takes care of him for a minute. Phone rings, hang up call. He realizes he needs to call Monica, give her an update. He also wants to call Linda to make sure that he's got all the information he can. More red flag stuff happens in that conversation. And then he calls Monica, and she tells him that she no longer requires his help and just drop it. So he's like, what the hell's going on there? And then, of course, he's thinking, like, I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting? I don't know. So he arranges for Linda. So just as a reminder, Linda is the co-worker, friend, lover of Jennifer, who was the woman killed with Tommy Tom in the apartment that works for Bianca. So she's coming over tomorrow to give him some information. Then he goes to sleep and is woken up later on, and Susan's there. They had arranged for a date. And he's like, oh crap, give me a minute. He goes and showers. So right now he's completely naked, and he hears the door or someone knocking at the door. And he thinks it's Linda. And his main concern, of course, because he's Harry Dresden, and he thinks there's going to be a cat fight, and that's his main concern. So he wraps a towel up around him, goes out to hopefully dispel the cat fight he assumes is going to happen between his date Susan and a random woman showing up at his apartment, because apparently women are just known to start cat fights as soon as they're in the same room with each other. There's a lot of red flags, okay, in terms of, I'm sorry. I love this series. I do love this series with my heart and soul. It has some issues. All right, so Susan opens the door. Harry's in the towel behind her. There is a frog demon-y looking thing at the door, and he's like, oh crap. So it can't quite get in. We get some more information on thresholds and how it takes a lot of energy to break a threshold into someone's home. Harry starts a fight, tells Susan to get down to the sub-basement just to get to safety. Fight ensues. He tells Susan to take the escape potion that he didn't need to use when he went to see Bianca. She drinks a potion down there. Doesn't seem to work. She's still in the basement. She comes up, starts shooting at the monster. One of them lands a hit good enough for Harry to get them both downstairs and into, is it a copper circle? I think it's a copper circle. Yes, it's a copper circle. To protect them from the demon who has now got through the threshold and is in the sub-basement. And then Harry's just like, Bob, why the hell didn't your supposedly perfect escape potion work? And Bob's just there in the sub-basement going, I was trying to tell you, but you kept telling me to shut up. She took the wrong potion. So now we have a naked Harry because he has lost his towel, and his date Susan, who is in a very attractive, revealing dress and has just basically roofied herself. You can imagine what happens there. He tries to hold her off a little bit and be like, just stop. If we break the circle, the demon's going to kill us. We have to wait till sunrise for it to go away. She's not having any of it. So then he makes a deal with Bob that if he releases him from his skull for 24 hours, Bob's going to toss him the real escape potion, and then they can both get out of there, which is what they do. So now that random red flag incident has passed because she throws up, is disoriented from the escape potion, and she's very groggy, kind of out of it, really out of it. And it's all Harry's fault. He's aware of that. And the demon's coming after them. Harry knows that he can either run and save himself. If he gets past running water, then he'll be okay. But he can't get there and carry Susan at the same time. So he determines because he's Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden, and he will always risk his life to protect someone in need, especially when it's his fault. So he stands between Susan and this demon coming after them. There's a storm outside. It's pouring down rain. There's thunder and lightning. And he's just like, God damn it, I got an idea. So he does something very stupid and channels the power of the lightning storm down through his own body and out at the demon. is powerful enough to destroy the demon. Thank God. This was dangerous. It could have killed him. He harnessed way too much power, but it worked, and he's kind of high on the adrenaline now. So then Morgan shows up and is just like, I know you summoned that demon, you lost control, it wouldn't have been enough to kill me. And Harry's just like, piss off. And Morgan's like, well, I've already summoned the council, they're going to be here in a couple days, and I'm going to present the evidence I have on you. They're going to find you guilty, and then you're going to be executed, and I'm going to enjoy being the one to execute you. And Harry's just like, well, shit. Moments later, a cop car shows up, and they're like, hey, there's a half-unconscious woman on the ground and a naked man over her. Maybe we should check this out. Turns out, okay, so Susan is able to explain them. It's just tee-hee, one of those things that happen. They're fine. She's fine. He's fine. Please don't arrest either of them. Turns out those are cops that actually Murphy sent because she couldn't get hold of Harry. Something's happened. So they take him back to his apartment. He's able to get dressed. And they go to a new crime scene. It turns out Linda had been murdered, which is why she didn't show up to have her cat fight with Susan in his apartment. And her chest has also been ripped off, her heart exploded. And Harry feels very guilty about this. More red flag stuff is done to describe her. But sadly, Murphy has found Harry's business card in her possessions. And Harry refuses to tell her why or really what is going on. And Murphy's like, you know what? I will file this and I will get a warrant for your arrest. And Harry's just like, do what you gotta do. If you can't trust me, do what you gotta do. So Murphy begins the process of filing the evidence and has every intention of filing a warrant for his arrest if he doesn't come to the station first thing in the morning to explain himself. She's still technically giving him the shot to come in and talk to her. And I will give Murphy this, from her perspective, he is keeping things from her. She's sick of it. Her personality is, I need to defend the city. I have to protect these people. So her job as a cop, as a police officer, is to enforce the law and go after the bad guys. And he is keeping her from doing that by keeping information from her. He needs to learn that she can take care of herself and to trust her to do so and give her the information so she can do so with full knowledge of what's coming after her and what is happening. Fine. Murphy doesn't completely suck. In that instance, I'm still not happy. During this confrontation, Murphy also reveals that Linda's clients are the Becketts. So they have a history with John Marcone. Basically, their daughter Amanda had been killed during a shootout that Marcone was involved in. He tried to not pay them off, but like give restitutions. John Marcone has one thing. He doesn't want to involve kids in his illegal activities. He doesn't want kids to be hurt. So the fact that their child, Amanda, was killed in this instance, or at least shot and then put in the hospital, slipped into a coma and supposedly died, he's sorry for that. They don't accept his money or apology, and just like they want revenge on him likely. So they're now wrapped up in all this. And just for the record, Harry's about 30 hours away from the council showing up. It's going to be a short trial if Morgan has anything to say about it, and honestly the council's trials are notoriously short, so he'll be killed in about 31 hours, basically. Alright, so a little bit dizzy from the past concussion, fighting a demon, interaction with a vampire, and all the potions he's taken, Harry leaves to continue on when he's attacked again. This time, he gets some of his hair ripped or cut out, and that's when he starts fighting back, after already being, like, pummeled. And some good Samaritans come, and they see Harry dressed in, like, a Easter is canceled, we found the body t-shirt, some cowboy boots, and I don't remember if he's wearing his duster. He's not looking too great, beating on this gentleman in a suit and tie kind of thing. So they pull Harry off of him, letting the guy get away, and eventually Harry chases after him again. Good Samaritans don't help when they realize, hey, we grabbed the wrong person. But anywho, Harry does a tracking spell, and this is when we learn that Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden can be terrifying when he wants to be. Don't piss him off. If you're going to make an enemy of Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden, kill him the first time, because if you give him a chance to come back after you, he's pulling all the stops. He's not being subtle. We love Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden. So he shows up at a club in a strip mall for John Marcone owns, after tracking the person who attacked him via some blood that was under his nails. I shook my head, irritated. I didn't have time to bother with subtlety. Power into the talisman, then power into the rings. I reached for the power in both the staff and rod, cool strength of wood and seething anger of fire, and stepped up to the front doors of the varsity. Then I blew it off its hinges. I blew it out rather than in. Pieces flew towards me and bounced off the shield of air I held in front of me, while others rattled back behind me into the parking lot. It wouldn't do to injure a bunch of innocent diners on the other side. You only get one chance to make a good first impression. Once the door was off, I pointed my blasting rod inside and spoke a command. The jukebox slammed back against the wall as though a cannonball had impacted it, and then melted into a pile of liquid plastic goo. The music squealed out to the speakers and stopped. I stepped into the doorway and released a pent-up wave of energy from my rings. Starting at the door, then circling through the room, the light bulbs began to explode with sharp little detonations and a shower of powdered glass and glowing bits of filaments. People at the bar and all the wooden tables scattered around the room, reacting as people do in this sort of situation. Little pigs, let me in, I said into the silence. I planted my staff on the ground and narrowed my eyes at Marcone. I'd really like to talk to you for a minute, John. He makes a good first impression to people sometimes. Okay. So we then have a little bit of back and forth between Harry and John, where Harry accuses one of John's men of cutting his hair and being involved with the people creating the three-eyed drug, as Harry's pieced together that whoever is doing this black magic stuff is involved with that drug and is therefore direct confrontation and enemies of John Marcone. So basically your guy sold you out. Oh, also they're trying to kill me because that hair links to me, which could be used to explode my heart the next time a storm runs through. And Johnny's like, you got any proof of this? He's like, well, the guy who attacked me has scratches from where I scratched the wrist. Shootout occurs. Buddy dies. Harry feels bad because he really didn't want anyone to die, but he's like, I probably led to this. Yeah. There's a little bit more confrontation with Marcone, as he says, if you get yourself killed on this, I'll just say it was my doing, basically, for insulting me at my place of work. And if you kill them, then my competition's out of the way, and also I'll say you did it on my behalf to make up for the fact that you have insulted me in my place of work. Harry's like, well, damn. So then he goes off to the lake house to... He goes off to find the person who has his hair because the buddy didn't have it on him. Harry goes for a walk to clear his head. We learn more about his parents, his mom being a wizard and his dad being a stage magician. But eventually we end up back at Linda's. We find a film canister similar to the ones that were at the lake house. Another person shows up. Harry intimidates him, pretends to be police. Buddy falls for it. Then we got a threat. Then he realizes he's not. There's a little bit more magic confrontation. Doesn't really matter. We find out that this guy had been hired by Linda to take photos of her at the lake house. So she was involved in that orgy, and I guess wanted to blackmail the people that was there. So he just wanted to get the film back because her people were getting killed and wanted to make a run for it. After getting this information, Harry destroys the film and goes to talk to Monica, having realized that it's an awful big coincidence that the three-eyed stuff in all this heart explosion has tied back to the lake house with that Monica has sent him on. So the two cases have now connected, and he's just like, why the hell is that? So goes to talk to Monica. She tries to tase him and is very angry and keeps saying, like, I won't let you hurt them. She accidentally initiates a soul gaze. Harry realizes how abused she's been and that her fight is to protect her children. And eventually he's able to calm her down, and she explains that her husband is the cause of all this. He's the one creating the three-eyed. The magic that he had been involved in has corrupted him. He became even more abusive, and so many bad things. Poisoned her, gave her the three-eye drug, saw him as a monster, and it started with just him and her, but he wanted more power, so he brought in the Becketts and realized that fear and didn't create the same power that lust did, so they turned orgies. And then they brought in Linda, Linda and Jennifer. So Jennifer, remember, was the woman who was killed in the original attack. Turns out Jennifer is actually Monica's sister. And when Monica started to get afraid because he started looking at the children, she was talking to her sister, like, I need to get out of here. Jennifer confronted him, saying, if you don't let Monica leave with the kids, then I'm going public. I'll tell Johnny Marcone. I'll tell the police, which is why he killed her and Tommy Tom back at the beginning. Then Monica went to Harry, knowing this had happened, to try to take down her husband. Harry then realized that he still has the scorpion that Monica had given him that had belonged to, have I ever called him by name? Victor Sells. We'll call him Victor. Or the Shadow Man is also how we called him, because he showed up to Harry once earlier on just to brag about how he was going to kill him back when that demon attack happened. And Harry realized, like, he got some power, but he doesn't have any skill or finesse with it. So he's not that great, but he's still got a lot of power. So Harry was going to use the scorpion necklace to track him down. However, Murphy, being the wonderful character that she is, I don't like Murphy, has gone to his office to arrest him because he didn't show up that day for the explanation for why his business card was at Linda's place. So she's there, and he calls his office and be like, Murphy, you're in danger. Get out. I don't know what this talisman is. I think it's dangerous as well. And she doesn't listen to him and is rifling through his desk like, what evidence are you hiding in your desk that you don't want me to find? As if she doesn't believe that he's a wizard and there could be some magical dangerous artifact in that desk. I don't know if she believes him being a wizard or not. I feel like she's supposed to, just her actions do not make up for it. Anyhow, Scorpion has grown in size, attacks Murphy, poisons her. She's down on the floor. Harry eventually gets to the office, sees her gun. She had been shooting at it. He tries to help. She comes conscious enough to think Harry is involved still. So she handcuffs him to her. He's like, you're not getting away from me. While this scorpion is keeps growing and growing in size and attacking them. And he's trying to get her out of the way. She thinks he's trying to escape. It's a whole thing. She's out of it. She's barely conscious because of the poison. He gets to the elevator, blasts the scorpion away enough time to get inside the elevator. Then the scorpion tears the elevator doors open, gets in through the elevator shaft on top of the roof of the elevator, and is trying to pierce through. And he describes it as sounding like a small gorilla has landed on top of them. And he's like, well, shit, we're going to die if that thing gets in here. Then the elevator stops working because too much magic going on in the area. And he's like, oh crap, we're really going to die. So he comes up with a plan of taking the air at the bottom of the shaft and controlling it to bring the elevator up and squishing the scorpion between the top of the elevator shaft and up there. And that actually works. However, bad side now, he's pushed the elevator up, destroyed all braking systems apparently, and it's coming down and they're going to crash and die. So he makes a air shield, very flexible, so got some give to distribute the kinetic force so they just don't smash into the shield. And there's all this goop from ectoplasm-y stuff from the scorpion all over them, and they somehow survive when the elevator hits because the shield distributes the kinetic force. EMTs show up because he's called them during this time or just before, and they take them outside. He explains it's probably brown scorpion venom, just a massive dose, so help her out. He's able to squeeze her small hands out of the cuff, taking some of the skin off, and then makes a run for it before anyone can ask any questions. He gets to Mac and Alley's, and Mac gives him, the owner of the bar, gives him his keys, and then Morgan shows up, because of course Morgan shows up. Morgan finally, having figured out how the dark sorcerer warlock has been doing all this heart explodey stuff, realizes they're powering the storm. There's a storm outside. Harry is going to die next because they have his hair. So Harry needs to get to the lake house to stop Victor Sells from killing him. Morgan is having none of it. It's like, I believe you're the sorcerer, so you're going to stay with me here until the storm passes so I know you don't kill anybody. And then the council's going to come and then they're going to kill you. And Harry's just like, if you don't let me out, I am going to die. I know who the warlock is. You have to let me stop him. Morgan's like, nah. So Harry picks up a chair because Morgan tells him to sit down. We're just going to wait out here. He picks up the chair and then he swings it at Morgan and knocks him out. Continues to like beat him a few times. Then everyone in this magical bar is just like, damn, you just assaulted a warden of the White Council. Are you insane? And he's like, eh. And then he takes off. Mac wishes him luck. And he races to the lake house as fast as he can. Harry then has to open his own third eye to get a feel of what's going on. There's a lot of death, a lot of bad vibes and skulls and fire around this house in his third eye view. And he's like, that's not good. So he goes in and, of course, a firefight starts. The Becketts are also there. And it's just before he goes in, there's a nice moment. Like, all his tools are burnt out. He's got no allies, no friends, no help. He's just like, all I've got is myself. And he's like, yeah, well, it's gonna be enough. And it is, because he's Harry Blackstone, Copperfield, Dresden. He gets it done. I love this character so much. All right, so we're back to our firefight. We have a fist fight. The Becketts are shooting. They're stuck in the kitchen. Harry enchants a broom that he used to clean things with before. Think like Fantasia, except instead of like sweeping up and getting rid of water, it's also knocking people out. It's just a magical broom beating people up. And then a room full of deadly drugs, one evil sorcerer on his home turf, two crazies with guns, one storm wield of magic looking for something to set into explosive motion. And then you got half a dozen scorpion legs, the ones he had just barely survived down there. And Victor has summoned a demon. So we have all kinds of bad things in this one house. Harry's completely screwed, but he eventually figures something out because Victor is actually an idiot and has not been properly trained by anyone in magic. So when he summoned the demon, he used the demon's name. Therefore, Harry knew the demon's name, and Harry's a more talented wizard. So he takes control of the demon, but to impose your will over another sentient creature is breaking one of the laws of magic. So Harry just takes control away from Victor, but doesn't impose his own will on the demon. Hence, the demon toad thing is now free to wreak havoc. And Victor's just like, okay, we team up, we can kill the demon. And both survive this. And Harry's just like, nah, I'm just going to let the demon go, and it'll kill you first. And Victor's like, well, crap. So more fighting, more over a banister. Scorpions that were there are also a problem. Demons up here on the top. It kills Victor. Harry's hanging by the handcuffs left over from Murphy, kind of just between the two, and he's like, place is on fire. I'm kind of screwed. Kind of hallucinating at this point. I think I just saw Morgan come in and kill the demon. What in the scorpions? What's going on? Turns out Morgan had followed Harry, heard what was happening, did not get involved, because why would he help? But heard enough to realize Harry was not actually the warlock involved in all this, seen him defeat and risk his life to stop Victor without breaking any of the laws of magic, and has agreed not to kill him because, you know, he doesn't deserve it, and Morgan's not actually happy about that, and now has to explain to the council that he was wrong, so that's great. And Harry's quite happy to have survived this encounter. He's also had the doom of Damocles probably going to be lifted from him, and he'll be like fully instated as a wizard. The Becketts are then arrested for their involvement with the three-eyed drug. Murphy and Harry's relationships are on the rocks, but Harry pays the little fairies, tooting them back with more pizza. So that is what happens, or the gist of Stormfront. I still love this book. I love it so much. It still has its issues. It has its flaws. It's fast-paced. I just love Harry and the comedy. The series gets better, though. So, so much better. I'm happy with the foreshadowing of some events in here. I like how we're establishing the worlds, the magic system. It gets so much better, and I can't wait. Full Moon, unfortunately, is my least favorite of the series. I hope maybe reread, I'll like it a little bit more. We'll see. All right, this has been a long video. I thank you so much if you stuck through the entire thing. Let me know what your favorite Dresden Files book is, your favorite character. When do you feel like it's amazing? Just tell me anything about the Dresden Files. Just literally anything. Just tell me anything you know and love about the Dresden Files. Or anything you know and hate. That's okay. I'll accept criticisms. I won't be happy about it. We might disagree, but I'll accept criticisms. So they're there. I know criticisms are there. See ya. Bye.